Hello, my name is Lilith and I am the creator behind the fashion art label Zigentala, and today I'm going to be showing you the process I went through in creating one of these couture pieces for my last runway show. So I had a runway show about 2 months ago as a part of the independent runway program for the Virgin Australia Melbourne Fashion Festival. It was just about a week before everything got shut down in Australia. So it was really lucky that I was able to sort of have the collection finished and done and down the runway before the world sort of stopped. In that runway I showcased these two pieces. They are a collaboration with the couture designer Deborah Selleck. This all sort of comes around the whole sort of theme of thrifting or flipping, as these were actually couture pieces that were in a collection of Deborah's a couple of years ago, but we decided to join forces to come together and to create something that sort of communicates a little bit of a statement. But today basically I'm just going to show you the whole process I went through in creating these. Specifically this piece here. I don't really have much footage for this one. Sorry. Maybe in the future I might do one, I'm not sure. Honey, you can go. Bye! These two dresses, well this one specifically because we're talking about this one now, was a collaboration between Deborah Selleck of Deborah Selleck Couture. She is a designer that is also based in Melbourne, Australia, and a very good friend of mine. We've always sort of had the idea of collaborating because I have always just dreamt of being able to cross into couture. I mean, not really couture, I was thinking more so crossing just into other sort of fabrics. A lot of what I do has been denim based, but I've been very adamant at trying to push the boundaries of different fabrics and different garments that I paint. A collaboration like this was always on the back burner for me. I had mentioned it to Deborah a couple of times, and it just so happens that a couple months ago she was doing some spring cleaning and decided to give me this gown. This dress originally came from Deborah Selleck's spring collection that she showcased in New York Fashion Week in 2015. So they are two dresses that are very similar. They have a similar design. One is in white and one is in black. We came together and decided that we would do a thrift, or I guess like a flip of her couture dresses, in creating something new and something that could potentially spread awareness for a certain something. So we originally decided to meet up and collaborate when the Australian bushfires were sort of at their most intense, and that was in January 2020. I found it very hard as a creator just to do what I normally do every day, knowing that there were thousands and thousands of people losing their houses and, you know, their livelihood, their town. My parents were sort of in an area where the bushfires were sort of closing in on them, so it was very hard to just be here in Melbourne and just play the waiting game, listening, ringing them up every day and just making sure that everything was fine and like their escape plan and what they're gonna do. this whole sort of Australian bushfire thing that started the ball rolling on this collaboration, because Deborah wanted to do something in regards to commenting on ethical fashion and the climate crisis, global warming, and essentially how fashion sort of has a big foot in that, with how it's become as an industry in regards to fast fashion and many other elements, consumerism, I guess chain stores. And so we sort of infused that inspiration into the design of it, where it shows a whole heap of colourful, crazy graffiti tags, which sort of creates a canopy of leaves on top of tree trunks that are coming up all the way around the skirt, obviously with the colour and the nature of the graffiti tags against the sort of angelic, innocent like nature of the trees, was meant to show the human impact on nature. And I guess that where that sort of goes in the direction of global warming and the climate crisis, and how obviously we should be looking at how we impact the environment and nature, and obviously trying to clean things up. I love a graffiti tag, I love anything with a graffiti tag. I sort of used the chaotic mess of all the tags as inspiration from a couple of my other recent works. Berlin jacket is one. I also have a cord piece that I had on another runway. So yeah, really a fan of just like layers and words and stuff. So the dress is pretty much in its original form. I did have to take off a couple of trimmings. As you can sort of see the trimming here in the middle of the dress. There was also another trimming that was around, it was between the waist and the hem of the dress. I had to untack that. I didn't really think I was going to be picking anything apart, and I didn't really have anything I could properly untack it with. I think I used like nail scissors or something. So basically I drawn up the sketch, and it also had written down a lot of the words, because essentially this is a very word heavy piece, and I had to write a whole list of just words to start off with that I could use, start as a foundation, and then obviously just build upon that. Here is the sketch that I originally had for my dress. As you can see, I did do a couple of samples, paint samples up here for Deborah to see. As you can see, we actually, initially I did have a concept where we would only sort of use pastel colors to create the graffiti canopy, just to sort of soften the color palette of the dress, rather than have big crazy colors. But then as I just sort of dialed it down and made it a little bit more basic, instead of just doing pastels and then staying to an earthy palette, we just went for white on the trees, because that was plain and simple enough and sort of went well with the trimming and just the general nature of the dress before it was painted. And then obviously just being a little bit more adventurous with our colors just sort of made it look crazier. It's just a bunch of words that I wrote down as a starting point for because there's a lot of words. There's a lot of words. You know, there's stuff here like biosphere, hyperconsumerism, climate crisis, carbon dioxide, deforestation, greenhouse gases, politics, industry, fossil fuels, plastic, generation, drought, mother nature, awareness, eco-friendly, famine, pollution, renewable, coal, CO2, garbage. Obviously at the beginning of the process I did do some painting samples on some scrap pieces of organza. I had no idea whether the paint would actually hold in a fabric as light as this. I have a very, I have a lighter paint that I can use on lighter fabrics, which is this one here, the Deborah Selleck. I actually really liked the sort of more, this is a more thicker paint that I used, and I just sort of like how it sort of holds itself better in the organza. It's almost like it was sort of like cut out, or it's like a print. We went with a thicker paint because it just held better, especially with white. I didn't do many colors, and this is a metallic color. It didn't really turn out as well. So the fabric paint that I used was perfect and really held very well in the fabric. So everything just sort of turned out really well. All of the different contraptions I had to make sure that the thickness, the paint wouldn't transfer into the netting. If I was to go back and do another couture collaboration, I would definitely, if I had control over it, probably paint the fabric before it was made into the dress, because then that means I could have just hung up a screen of organza and then just painted all the words on it like I did for this. This was quite easy because I made a screen and then I just painted on it. This was much harder, but you know what? I'm up for the challenge. I'm here, I'm having a good time. I just sort of put the words on the dress sporadically. I wasn't supposed to actually paint the top part here, but I'd done the bottom part and it just looked very bottom heavy, and it just didn't, I wasn't satisfied with that, so I decided to paint the top. The top is a different fabric altogether. I don't know what you'd call it. It's sort of like a lace. Also at that point I was embracing the whole grungy vibe that I was trying to inject into this project. Hello, it's the 3rd of February 2020. I just drove to Deborah's house yesterday and picked up the dress that we're going to be painting on for the Vamp runway, hopefully. I've drafted some paint strokes on the skirt, and I've just realised that this particular trimming is going to be in the way of the design. So I just went out and bought myself some nail scissors and I'm going to be picking it apart. A nice mechanical job for me to do while my brain sort of relaxes creatively. I'm just in my office on a Sunday afternoon, and I've been sort of nervous to start on these projects, because like the 2 dresses, because I've never done something like this before and I tend to overthink, and obviously I always just think of, you know, the worst thing happening. So I have put off coming to my office to work on my days off of doing all my other stuff. But I'm here now, as you can see, painting these dresses, because of the layers of organza is very hard to do, because I can't press against a solid surface. I have to actually pull the organza and do the strokes like that, so with 2 hands. So I'm just going to show you my setup at the moment. Yeah, I'm starting to do the trees. I'm just sort of making the lines a little bit thick because I guess just the texture of the organza and it just falling, the way that it falls, it's sort of hard to see the lines when they're very small. So I'm just thickening them up so you'll be able to see. The back is a little bit of a different situation to the front because there's more of a train. It's more bunched up, so I don't think you'll be able to see the trees as well as the front. But I'm starting at the back and just getting a feel for what looks good, so that when I do the front, where it's actually straight and you will be able to see the trees, it's a little bit more easier to see them. yeah, the two layers of the dress. So it's really hard because there's the organza layer and then there's a mesh layer which sort of gives the skirt a bit of structure. And it's hard because when you're painting on this organza, obviously it's a very light fabric, so when I do paint, it goes through the layer of the fabric, and sometimes if it's too thick or too wet, it will transfer onto the mesh. Let it transfer. I don't think it matters because as I said, when the dress sort of falls, you won't be able to, like, a small dots behind the thicker lines aren't really going to matter. It's just me being a perfectionist, and well, that's it, just me being a perfectionist. Overwhelmed with the fact that it's such a big project, and that obviously you always want the best, and you always want it to be created to absolute perfection. But obviously with that high standard comes a lot of tension in regards to just making the right decisions and doing the right things. I've had to come to terms with the fact that this may not be perfect because this is the first couture gown that I'm painting, but hopefully there's just many things that I'm going to learn along the way. Also just the fact that if I do ever paint organza, I would want to paint it before it gets actually reconstructed into a dress, because when you look at the top of the dress where the what's it called, like the underbody, you've got like a nude skirt that comes out, that's going to be even more hard, painting the layers on top of that and not having it transfer into that body. But I think that's when I might actually put a book or something underneath. I just don't even know how I'm gonna make these more into trees, but I guess we'll see how we go. Alrighty. So a quick little reflection before I run off back home. I've done 5 trees already, about like a third of the skirt done, but I make it very difficult for myself because I am very addicted to putting a lot of detail into things. So I'll just show you what I mean. That's what I've done so far. It looks pretty cool, I think. I'm feeling good about it. Here I did earth. I did a test run of colour on this part. I like the way it turned out. It was very easy to do. There's like little to no transfer, so that's gonna be fun. I think this part of the dress is going to be the fun part for me, because it'll be a lot of color and a lot of graffiti and less lines, whereas this is just a very time-consuming, bloody big time-consuming. I don't know what I'm going to be calling it, I don't know the name yet. There we go. But I decided, because it was looking very bottom heavy. It looks great. I continued some drips down, which sort of helps transition the graffiti into the trees, but it was a little bit bottom heavy. The top part I wasn't planning to paint, but now I'm painting it, which is good because it just sort of comes together more as a whole piece. And so that's basically it. I do have a couple of bare spots that I need to fill in here. And I also would like to just add a couple of like detailing in the trees, maybe a couple more branches and like maybe a joey or something, just to sort of signify the Australian bushes, and obviously as a reference to the bushfires. Over the last week I've also just experienced very exhausted periods of exhaustion where I've possibly questioned whether I'm actually pushing myself to burnout, which I don't want. This is what I love. This is what I love doing. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing any of this. Must admit, I'm not the best person to wear this. The zip is just a teensy too small. Oh well. This is the finished product. Everything went well, the runway went well. The model that wore this wore it so well. She looked amazing, it was great, the pictures turned out amazing. I know that when the model was wearing this around backstage, she wanted to put it on straight away, and she just wanted to walk around in it, and she didn't want to take it off. And she was getting so many compliments backstage, which was good. I think this was like the standout piece of my runway back in March. So, and I'm super excited. I feel like this project was sort of a gateway for me to open up the world of couture, or even just evening wear or dresses, or just working with lighter fabrics like organza, more, yeah, I guess just more delicate, lighter, romantic fabrics. It's definitely a big contrast to all of the sort of more street style and trendy stuff that I do now, lots of denims and cottons and leathers, but working with the organza was great, and I'd love to do more organza. I think I've got a newfound appreciation for it just because of the see-through nature of it. Even just thinking of doing like just a shirt made of organza, or just like a light sort of fabric, but being able to block out a design on it with fabric paint, I think would be so awesome. Just to elaborate on that, one of my ideas I had was doing a minimal line version of this dragon and having it wrapped around a shirt like this in maybe a gold or a silver paint. I think that would look awesome. If you are looking to throw your couture gowns away, please, please, please message me. I will gladly take them off your hands. Let's do a collaboration. I want to do more of this stuff. I have so many ideas in my head of different dresses and designs, and the sky, not even the sky, the fucking galaxy. The galaxy is the limit at the moment, are just colours. And just being able to take something that I guess is so very romantic and delicate, and being able to transform it into something different, something more edgy, something with a statement, more colour and more lines and just more graphics. I think it's such a really cool sort of crossover of art and fashions, and I couldn't have done it without my fellow collaborator, Deborah Selleck. Deborah is one of my inspirations, always will be. She's such an amazing designer, and you should go check her stuff out. Deborah Selleck, Couture, and I am honoured and very humbled to have collaborated with her. Hope you enjoyed this video, the process, the inspiration, the development. It was all a very lengthy but rewarding process. Yeah, let me know what you think if you have an opinion on this. If you don't, then that's cool as well. No opinion is alright, I guess. That I'm going to be talking So this the creator behind the Zig. Hello, my name is Lilith. Hello. Shit. Hope you enjoy it. That sort of helps the dress to sort of come out. I'm really doing well today in regards to words. I did, even though I tried to sort of... Why? I'm so frustrated with myself. Why? Ugh, lots of talking, lots of... Oh, that's my booze money. This is the finished product. Can you hear that zip?